So here are the notes for standard form. So important information. So the standard form of a quadratic is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, where a, b, and c are real numbers, and a cannot be 0. Now b can be 0, c can be 0, that's fine, but you have to have an x squared term, otherwise you no longer have a quadratic. It is the x squared term that makes it a quadratic equation. So previously, we talked about vertex form with the highest or lowest point. This equation does not contain the values of h and k. However, we have these two equations that do let you find the value of h and k given the equation in standard form. So h is negative b over 2a, and k equals c minus h squared, or if you use this equation for h, you can get this. Now, there is another way to find k, and that is you actually just plug your h value back into the original equation. So you could also do that once you know what h is, plug it back into your standard form, the k value will come out. It's either one makes no difference. The axis of symmetry is the line that the parabola is mirrored across. So if you remember our shape of our parabola, looks something like this, with the vertex sitting there at the lowest point. The axis of symmetry runs through the center, always has equation x equals h. So the graph is mirrored across it. A is still whether the graph opens up or down. So if A is positive, we have up, negative, we have down. And the value of C in this equation gives you the y-intercept. Okay, so down here, find the axis of symmetry and the coordinates of the vertex for the following parabolas. So x squared minus 14x plus 57. So to find the value for h, it's going to be negative b. So b is negative 14. 2a is 2 times 1. So that's 14 over 2. So the h value would be 7. So I'm going to use this k equals equation. So k equals c, which is 57, minus a, which is 1, times h squared. So that's going to be 57 minus 1 times 49. Remember, the exponent comes first. 57 minus 49 is 8. So the axis of symmetry is just x equals h, so x equals 7. And the vertex is the coordinate h comma k, 7 comma 8. So if you look at this one, h is going to be negative b over 2a. So negative 8 over 2, so negative 4. K will be c, 32, minus a1 minus times h squared. So once again, remember the exponent comes first, so negative 4 squared is positive 16. 32 minus 16 is 16. So the axis is x equals negative 4, and the vertex is at negative 4 comma 16, h comma k. Okay, so for 3 here, so h is equal to negative. Now for this problem, b is 0. There is no regular x. Over 2 times a, so 2 times negative 1. So that's 0. Negative 0 doesn't mean anything. Divided by negative 2, so h would be 0. K will be c, 1, minus a, negative 1, h squared. So that's 1 minus negative 1 times 0, which is 1 minus 0, which is just 1. So the axis is x equals 0. The vertex is 0, comma 1. So once again here, b is 0, so h equals negative 0 over 2 times negative 3. 0 over negative 6 is still just 0. So c minus a h squared. So 6 minus negative 3 times 0, oops, off the screen, 0. 6 minus 0, or 6. So x is 0, vertex at 0, comma 6. So for 5, h is negative b, so negative 20, over 2a. So that's negative 20 on top, negative 4 on bottom, so that is positive 5 when you're all done. So k will be c, negative 52, minus a, negative 2, h squared. So negative 52 minus, negative 2 times 25. That's negative 52 plus 50. Negative 2 times 25 is negative 50, and an extra negative flips the sign. So negative 2. So our axis is x equals 5. Our vertex is 5 comma negative 2. And our last one here, so h is negative b, so negative 56 over 2a, so 2 times 4. Negative 56 over 8 is negative 7. For k, c, c, 192, minus a, h squared. 192 minus 4 times 49. So 4 times 49 is 298? 296, I bet. No, not that. Let's get a calculator. 196. So 192 minus 196 would be negative 4. So the axis, x equals negative 7, vertex, negative 7 comma negative 4. Okay, so these ones here are matching the graph with the equation. When you're matching the graph to the equation, you're actually looking at two things. So like with vertex form, we're looking at the value of a for that opens up or down. And then actually all we're looking at is the number at the very end, because that's going to be the y-intercept. So for example, this parabola opens down, so I have to have a negative a, so it cannot be those two, because they have positive a's. And then I'm looking at these two here. The graph looks like it crosses here at negative 2. That's the only one that has negative 2 at the end. So it's the first option. So for our second one, opens down again, so we can eliminate those two because they have positive a's. Graph crosses at negative 6. There's my negative 6, so it's the third one. All right. So once again, opens up, so we have to have a positive a value, so it cannot be the middle two. They have negative a's. Graph crosses at negative 6 again, so there's the one that has negative 6 at the end. Yeah. Now just a note about what these values are here is the distractors here, that negative 7.3, that's the vertex, but that's not what that number is. That number is the y-intercept. Okay, so the bottom here, 7, 8, 9, and 10, you can find max and mins just like before. Whether you have a max or min depends on the value of a, so remember for a minimum, a is more than 0, for a maximum, a is less than 0. And then we need to determine the value for k in order to figure out what that max or min is. So similar to the steps we did for the first couple examples, we need to work out h, then work out k to find it. So this graph, because the a value is negative, we'll have a maximum value, the negative 2 out front. So h is negative b, that's not b, negative 4 over 2a. So that's positive 4 over negative 4, so the h value is negative 1. So for these, we'll do it the other way. We'll do the substitution. So the other way to find k would be you would plug your negative 1 into your equation for all the x's. So negative 1 squared is positive 1, so that's going to be negative 2. Remember, the exponent comes first and not the multiplication. It's not negative 2 times negative 1 and then square. That would be positive 4 down here. It's exponent first. Plus 4 minus 8. So that is negative 10 plus 4, so that's negative 6. So that would be my maximum value. So for 8, h is negative b over 2a, so 3 over 2, or 1.5. Oh, sorry, this one will, because a is positive, this one will have a minimum. So if we plug our 1.5 in, we get 1.5 squared minus 3 times 1.5 plus 5. So that's 2.25 minus 4.5 plus 5. So that's going to be 2.75. So for 9, start with h. Minimum. The a value is negative, or a value is positive, so we have a minimum. So negative b over 2a. Negative 6 over 2 is negative 3. So to find the k value, just plug our negative 3 in. So negative 3 squared, 6 times negative 3 plus 7. So 9 minus 18 plus 7, so that's negative 9 plus 7, so that would be negative 2. Just a note on this step here, if you are getting negative 9 when you put that in your calculator, it is because you are forgetting the parentheses. When you square or raise a negative number to a power, it needs to be in parentheses first. All right, and our last one, negative, so this one will have a max. So h is negative b, so negative 1 over 2a, which is also negative 1. So negative 1 over negative 2 is positive 0.5, or 1/2 if you want the fraction. So plug it in, negative 0.5 squared. Notice here that negative is not inside the parentheses. It's just the x being squared, not the negative. Plus 0.5 minus 4. So that is going to be negative 0.25 plus 0.5 minus 4. So negative 3.75 when you're all said and done. And that brings us to the end of the section.